right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Today we're tackling something that might be like a secret roadblock on your English learning journey. This big mistake that a lot of learners make.
Yeah.
And get this, it's not about like trying to sound like you're broadcasting the BBC News or something.
You're right.
You know that?
No, absolutely. Super perfect. The source material that we're looking at, it actually kind of turns that whole idea on its head,
Interesting.
It's saying that obsessing over being perfect, it can actually slow you down.
I think back to when I was trying to learn Spanish, and I would just get so hung up on am I conjugating this verb right?
Yeah.
And I'd just clam up in conversations,
Right.
It was like my brain froze.
I can relate to that.
It wasn't until I kind of let go of that fear a little bit that I actually started, making some progress.
And the source really highlights that for a lot of learners, they fall into this trap of thinking about English like it's a test.
Yeah.
Like they got to get an A+.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of it as like a tool for communicating.
I like that, like a tool.
Yeah, and that mindset shift can make a world of difference.
Okay, so let's dive into this source material a bit.
Okay.
It starts off with this really cool analogy comparing, learning English to how kids learn their first language.
Right.
Right? They don't come out of the womb knowing perfect grammar.
No, not at all.
They just dive in and they make a ton of mistakes.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is they're just naturally fearless communicators.
They are.
Right. They just want to express themselves. They don't care if their grammar is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
The point the source is making is that for learners, the main thing should be just getting your meaning across.
Yeah.
Not worrying about being perfectly grammatical from day one.
Yeah. It makes me think of that saying, perfect is the enemy of good.
That's a good one.
Maybe all those hours that we spend memorizing verb tenses in a textbook.
Right.
Could be better spent, actually using the language,
And the source actually addresses that directly,
Really?
It talks about the over-reliance on textbooks.
I like that phrase, over-reliance.
Yeah, and look, grammar's important. We're not saying it's not.
Right.
But the source is saying that it's a means to an end, not the end in itself. The real goal is being able to use English confidently in real life.
I totally get that.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know, learning to play the piano.
Mm-hmm.
You can study all the music theory you want.
Right.
But until you actually sit down and start playing,
yeah.
you're not really going to develop those skills.
Totally.
So this source goes on to say it suggests some practical ways to bridge that gap. Between the knowledge and actually being able to use the language.
And it even suggests talking to yourself in English.
Wait, hold on. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like walking around my house being like, I am making toast. I am putting on my shoes.
Exactly.
Is that really helpful?
It may sound a little strange, but it's a really effective way to get comfortable with just the sounds of the language, the rhythm. It's low pressure.
Right.
You can practice your pronunciation,
Yeah.
experiment with new words,
Yep.
build your confidence, all without anybody judging you.
That's a good point. No judgment.
The source even suggests recording yourself speaking in English so you can actually listen back and hear how you sound and pinpoint the areas that you need to work on.
That's a great tip. And it's definitely a lot less intimidating than jumping into a conversation with a native speaker right away.
Exactly.
Speaking of resources, the source talks about how it's really important to find resources that work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone learns differently.
There's no one magic bullet.
Yeah.
There are so many different options out there now.
There are.
You've got language exchange apps like Hello Talk.
Oh, yeah.
Online communities, even virtual reality experiences now.
Wow.
That simulate real-life conversations.
That's wild.
It's about finding what clicks
Yeah.
with you.
So I guess the big takeaway here is, we got to stop aiming for this impossible perfection.
Right.
And just focus on getting our message across,
Absolutely.
Embrace the journey, make the mistakes.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, have fun with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source, it also talks about how important confidence is, right?
Right.
It even gives us this little mantra, I'm improving every day.
I love that.
I mean, it's so simple.
It is.
But it's such a good way to kind of cultivate that growth mindset,
Totally.
and focus on the positive.
Hmm.
But what about those times when we do make mistakes?
Right.
Because let's be real, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
How can we reframe those as positive experiences?
Well, the source actually says that we should look at those mistakes as chances to learn.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny because for so long, I always looked at making mistakes as like a sign of failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the source is saying it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
It's a chance to learn, to grow.
It's like every time you make a mistake, it's an opportunity to kind of refine your understanding of how the language works.
I like that, yeah. And I imagine that can have a big impact on your confidence too.
Oh, totally.
If you can look at it that way.
Oh, yeah, and the source goes even deeper into that. Like it talks about the psychology of language learning, and it says that having a growth mindset is so important. Believing that you can get better, even if you feel like you're starting from zero.
Right.
That's so crucial for staying motivated and pushing through those tough moments.
That's like that quote by Carol Dweck: "The growth mindset creates a passion for learning rather than a hunger for approval."
That's a good one.
And I think when you're passionate about learning English, you're more likely to put in the effort and actually enjoy the process.
Exactly. And that's something that the source really emphasizes. Learning English shouldn't feel like a chore,
Right.
It should be an engaging experience, something that you look forward to.
Yeah, and I think that ties back to finding those resources and methods that really resonate with you.
For sure.
Like, I remember when I was first learning Spanish, I tried using flashcards to memorize vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it just felt so tedious.
Right.
It wasn't until I started watching Spanish movies and listening to music that I really started to internalize the language.
And that actually brings up a really important point that the source makes, which is immersion is so key.
Right.
Surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible, even if it's just for a few minutes every day, it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and now with technology, you can create that immersive environment almost anywhere.
Right.
Like, you've got podcasts, you've got YouTube, online articles. You can even connect with native speakers through language exchange apps.
So many options.
I mean, it's amazing how accessible English has become.
Yeah, and the source really encourages learners to explore all those different avenues and find what works for them.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
So it sounds like the key to conquering this biggest mistake is really about just shifting our whole perspective on learning English. It's about focusing on communication,
right,
not perfection, embracing those mistakes,
Oh.
as opportunities to learn,
Yeah.
and just finding that joy in the journey.
You got it. And that reminds me of that mantra again.
Yeah.
I'm improving every day.
I'm improving every day.
Yeah, even if some days you don't feel like you're making a huge leap,
Right.
just acknowledging those small improvements can keep you going and build your confidence over time.
And I think it's important to remember too that learning a language, it's a lifelong journey.
Absolutely.
It's not like you just reach a certain point and you're done.
Right.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah, there's always something new to discover.
Right.
New ways to improve.
Yeah, and I kind of like that about it.
Me too, because it keeps things interesting.
For sure.
So to all the English learners out there, whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for years, just remember, don't let the pursuit of perfection hold you back.
Right.
Embrace the messy, the imperfect.
Have fun with it.
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just keep those conversations flowing.
Well said.
Speaking of conversations, the source actually brings up another point
Okay.
that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
It talks about how we can maximize our speaking practice. Even if we don't have a conversation partner readily available.
Yeah.
It suggests using some simple techniques that we can incorporate into our routine.
Yeah. Give me those practical tips.
Yeah, like what kind of techniques are we talking about?
Well, one technique that the source mentions is called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
It's basically where you listen to a recording of a native speaker and you try to imitate their pronunciation, their intonation as closely as possible.
So you're trying to become a vocal clone of the speaker.
You could say that.
Okay, I imagine that takes a lot of concentration.
It does, but that's actually part of what makes it so effective.
Okay.
You know?
Why?
By actively listening and mimicking, you're training your ear and your mouth to work together. It's like a workout for your English-speaking muscles.
I like that. A workout, okay.
So to do it, you just need to find a recording of something that you enjoy listening to, you know? Like a podcast, an audiobook, a YouTube video, and then you play a short segment of it, and you try to repeat it word for word.
Wow.
Paying close attention to the speaker's rhythm, their intonation, their pronunciation.
So, and the source says that it's not about being perfect right away.
Exactly.
It's more about just kind of gradually refining your pronunciation over time.
Right. So don't get discouraged if you don't sound exactly like the speaker at first.
Yeah.
It's about progress, not perfection.
There's that growth mindset again.
Exactly. And I imagine that if you practice this regularly, you'll definitely start to see improvements in your fluency and your confidence.
Yeah, and the great thing about shadowing is you can do it anywhere.
Right.
Like you're commuting to work, you're doing chores around the house, you're taking a walk.
It's like having a portable English tutor in your pocket.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Are there any other time-efficient techniques that the source recommends?
There's one more that I think is particularly helpful, which is using self-recording.
Self-recording.
Yeah, we touched on this briefly before, but it's so valuable.
Oh, yeah?
You know, recording yourself speaking in English and then listening back to it.
I got to be honest, that always makes me cringe a little bit.
I get it. It's like hearing your own voice on a voicemail.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird.
But trust me, it's incredibly valuable because when you listen back to yourself objectively, you can pinpoint those areas where your pronunciation could be better, or your grammar, or your fluency.
So it's like becoming your own language coach.
You could say that.
Okay, I like that.
And the best part is there's no judgment.
Right, no judgment.
It's just you. You know, so the source recommends setting aside maybe 5 or 10 minutes each day to just record yourself speaking about a particular topic.
That's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, I could even make it part of my morning routine.
Totally.
Like record myself talking about what I'm going to do that day or summarize a news article or something.
It's a great way to warm up your English brain.
Yeah. And then the key is to listen back and really analyze it.
Exactly. You know, identify those areas where you can improve.
Okay.
You can even transcribe the recording.
Oh, wow.
If you want to really look closely at your grammar and vocabulary.
It's like having a personalized language analysis report.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And then once you've identified those areas that need work, you can focus your practice sessions on those specific things.
So it's really about being targeted in your approach.
Exactly. And over time you'll start to see those weaknesses turn into strengths. You know, and your fluency and your confidence will just skyrocket.
It's amazing how these like simple techniques can have such a big impact.
It is. And I think the main takeaway here is that becoming a more confident and fluent English speaker, it doesn't require these grand gestures or expensive resources. It's about incorporating these small but mighty habits.
Little habits.
Into your everyday life.
So whether it's shadowing, talking to ourselves, recording ourselves, you know, there's always something that we can do to keep moving forward.
And that brings us back to the heart of this whole deep dive. You know, embracing imperfection, prioritizing communication over perfection.
I mean, it's such an empowering message, don't you think?
It is. And I think it's a message that really resonates with me personally.
You too. Yeah.
You know, it reminds me to just be kinder to myself throughout the learning process.
And to celebrate those small victories.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really does. And you know, for anyone out there who's maybe feeling discouraged right now, or stuck, you know, on their English learning journey, just remember, every expert was once a beginner.
That's true.
You know, and every fluent speaker, they stumbled and fumbled their way through. You know, tons of conversations before they really found their stride.
It's not a straight line, you know?
Right.
The path to fluency, it's full of detours.
Yeah.
Roadblocks.
Bumps in the road.
Yeah, unexpected adventures.
I like that. That's a good way to look at it.
You know, but it's those challenges that make the journey so rewarding.
So speaking of those rewarding moments, what would you say to someone who's struggling to see the progress they're making?
Well, the source actually talks about that feeling of frustration, you know, and it encourages learners to focus on those little wins.
Okay.
Those moments where you use a new phrase successfully, or
Yes.
or you understand a native speaker without subtitles.
Yeah.
Or you feel a little bit more confident.
Yeah.
You know.
I love those aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like this little
It's like a boost.
Yeah, a little boost of motivation.
Yeah.
And it reminds you like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this.
Exactly. And those little wins, they add up over time.
Right.
And they eventually lead to big progress, you know?
Yeah.
It's like building a muscle, you know? You're not going to see results overnight.
Right.
But with consistent effort, you gradually become stronger, more capable.
And that kind of brings us to the final takeaway from this deep dive source. It leaves us with this thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
What's one small step that you can take today to prioritize communication over perfection?
Such a good question.
I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be, you know, having a conversation with a language partner or recording yourself reading a passage from your favorite English book.
Right.
Or even just like committing to watch an English TV show without subtitles.
I think the key is to choose something that feels challenging but doable.
Right.
You know, something that you're interested in. And remember, even the smallest step forward, it's still a step in the right direction.
So for all the English learners out there, no matter where you are on your journey, we encourage you to embrace this message of progress. Over perfection, let go of that fear of making mistakes.
You got this.
You got this.
Yeah.
And just dive in.
Have fun with it.
Fun with it.
To the wonderful world of communication.
You know, who knows what amazing connections and experiences are waiting for you on the other side.
And that's it for this deep dive.
That's it for today.
So until next time, keep those conversations flowing.
Yeah, keep practicing.
And remember, you're improving every day.
I'm improving every day.
There you go.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Take care.